It's Mel, everybody, who you know from your screen as Simply Live Mel. Hola, bon dia.
Hello. Bon dia. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. And you seem to have brought your own wind turbine with you, Mel, as well. Excellent.
I have. Yeah, it's renewable energy on my land. Yeah, no, I'm
Is that
joking.
what's powering your participation in the show this morning?
Yeah, so if it drops out, it's all the wind turbine's fault.
So we'll keep our eye on the wind turbine, and if it stops, we might lose you. Very good, excellent stuff. Where are you? Which part of Portugal are you in?
I'm near Obados.
Are you? Excellent stuff. Okay, well, welcome to your monthly residency. We've seen you as a wonderful participant on the screen as Simply Live. Simply live on there. So could you tell us a bit more about yourself and how you got to be here in Portugal? To me, what you've told me before is it's a very interesting story, quite the turnaround.
Yeah, I've lived a very varied life. I think probably most people who end up traveling to a different country later in life have probably already done a variety of things all over the place as well.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a, I don't know if you've heard of the term of multi-potentialite. If not, I'll talk to you about that later.
What?
So
Hold on a minute. Multi-potentialite.
A multi-potentialite. I don't know if it's a scientific term, but I saw a TEDx talk on it once and went, oh, that's me, which is just someone who's interested in loads and loads of different things, but also is someone who is action-oriented, which means I also start and enact lots and lots of different things and can see the potential to add something new in and new in and new in, which sometimes leads me into overwhelm.
I do.
So
I
I'd
know
run.
that position well. I am a fellow sufferer, but carry on.
There you go. So yes, then I was running my own businesses, doing my thing in Australia, and decided to, in that state, having multiple businesses and multiple homes, that I needed to run away from home. So I sold up everything, basically put a few boxes of photos and things like that in my sister's house and packed my backpack and came to Europe without a plan and just floated around for about 3 years. It was really awesome. It was probably the best time of my life. No plan, no structure, living very freely, simply living, hence why I used that tag. And after a few years decided, my son's in Lisbon, so I decided to come to Lisbon and visit him, and then thought, well, maybe I'll get a little apartment here just to have a base, put a suitcase in and keep traveling. And that happened just a few weeks before COVID lockdown. So
yikes.
Here I am.
So you had your lockdown well, it could have been anywhere, I suppose, if you're locked inside an apartment, right?
Yeah, but it was in Portugal, yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes,
So quite the turnaround, as I say there. A downshifter, possibly, with a specific interest in. Have you got a fellow minimalist here, if that's what you are, indeed, or a minimalist? Bom dia, Gumpers. Felicitas a todos como vosso dia. Notably, James came to Portugal with just a couple of bags. That was a purposeful thing, was it, to throw off the shackles of corporate life and your earlier life and to live much more simply? What was the appeal of that, and how easy was it?
Look, what I really found was that, and I heard James yesterday, and I was cheering from the background when he mentioned that. What I found is that we just get really, really stressed and overwhelmed in the day-to-day stuff. And the more stuff that you have, the more insurances you're paying and getting quotes on, the more, the more you buy stuff to fill up your stuff.
Yes.
And then you have to insure your stuff, and then you have to try and sell off your stuff or declutter your stuff. And there's just a lot all of the time. And what I found was that, I'm not suggesting that everybody would suit well floating around the world for a few years without any home base and no money and that sort of stuff. But what I found was that stress was much less for me, because all you're worried about is, where am I sleeping tonight? What am I doing? Where shall I go? I want to see someone somewhere else, so I'm just going to go there. And I can see Jane saying it was just about freedom for me. Exactly. It was just that you end up spending so much of your time cleaning your stuff, caring for your stuff, and earning money to pay for your stuff.
Yes.
And it's so much simpler. It's so much more carefree and simpler when you have nothing, which would stress some people out enormously, not having any security, and I get that. But for me, it's just so much simpler. And like James, but even more than what James said yesterday, having been stuck in lockdown and a few other circumstances, I've started accumulating again. And I'm really going, I need to do something about this. This is horrible. This is horrible. I don't like it at all. So
It
about
seems to be what we do, doesn't it? As soon as the hunter-gatherer vibes give way to a little bit of what would be called it's the agricultural model, albeit in an apartment in Lisbon, we start to accumulate things. It does seem to be in our nature as human beings, doesn't it, to nest and bring things to us and make ourselves comfortable in that way. And I suppose it's about striking a balance, isn't it?
I think it's about striking a balance, and I think it's about fear. I think it's about fear of suddenly being homeless, or suddenly not having enough food, or suddenly not having a thing that you need.
Yeah.
And in a time of COVID, for me, I recognise, looking back at it, that I was accumulating things to make sure that I had something if the shops locked down again. And in my case, as you can see, I have got my land now, but I was looking to get some land, and I wanted to be able to put some little shack sort of thing on here. So then if I'd see something, I think, oh, that'll go well in the shack. I could use that shelving that I can see out there. I'd be dragging it in for that. And then that ended up not happening. And, now I've got stuff that I need to get rid of. But I think there is an element, and what I found was the good in humanity. Oh,
yes.
I'm not sure who
No,
can
you're there.
hear who.
You're there.
I can't
You're
see
frozen
anybody
up
at the moment.
Oh, we can definitely hear you. We can definitely hear you. Not a problem. Hello, is there still there, Mel? I'll tell you what, while Mel's trying to reconnect with us, I did find this in connection with what is being talked about today, getting rid of clutter. It's definitely a thing, isn't it? Who was that wonderful woman on Netflix who used to help people declutter their houses? Oh, are you there again, Mel?
I'm back. Sorry, I don't know what's going on.
No problem, no problem. This is the off-grid way, I suppose, isn't it? It's bound to happen from time to time. I was just going into this decluttering challenge here that we might talk about, but just to see how people are getting on with this. But more generally, it is a thing at the moment, isn't it? It is. I was just trying to remember that lady's name on Netflix who would go into people's houses and help them declutter. What was she called?
Starts with a K.
Yes.
Code something.
Yes, she was great anyway, wasn't she? She would actually bring tears of joy to people's faces by just tidying up, simplifying their lives. There's something afoot. Do you think we've reached peak stuff and humanity is thinking, like, enough of this? I want to own my things and not have my things own me. Are we not there yet?
No, I don't think we're there yet. Nowhere close. And I was going to say, with the decluttering thing, which I think we need to do, and I count myself in that right now as well. We need
Marie
to do
Kondo.
that.
Marie
Kondo. That's her.
Yes, okay, yeah.
But I think there's a bigger thing that we also need to address, and I don't think Marie Kondo looked at that.
Okay.
Was that we need to look at our big stuff,
right?
Because the more big stuff that we have, we need to fill it with little stuff. So, for example, I know so many people, even here in Portugal, who have a 4-bedroom house when they're just retirees living alone. Why? Because my family might visit, once every second year. You've got 2 people coming. They can sleep in the same room just for a few days. It may not be flash, but as soon as you've got a 5-bedroom house, then you have to fill it. Then you have to insure it. Then you have to pay more, pay more for everything. We have a second car, which in some people may definitely need a second car. But what I've looked at and I've suggested to my son is, do you need it? Or with the cost of running an Uber, the times you actually can't catch public transport.
Yep.
It's great in a family if there's 2 of you having one car. But realistically, it's not just the physical cost. It's also the mental outlay of going, this car, these tires need replacing. Now this car's broken down. Now I have to fix this. Now I have to get it serviced. Now I have to take it down for the inspection. I have to, did I insure that in time on 2 cars instead of just one? Yeah. And then just saying, and so it's this mental load is what I have found. You lose a lot of that mental workload, and
it's drag, isn't it? It's dragon friction, isn't it, of our sort of mental space. So the big question then for me is, why do we do it? Is it because that's how we've been brought up and that's what the collective aspiration is, so people sort of automatically resort to that?
I think there's that. I think there's certainly security. I think it makes us feel good. There's a dopamine hit every time you buy something. I think that there's a lot of different factors, and I think they're different factors for different people and different stages of life. I mean, I certainly would imagine that a lot of people had a fear aspect around COVID as well, and suddenly accumulated more, and potentially especially those older who maybe lived through World War I or II or whatever, Salazar times or something, and suddenly went, oh
Yes.
gosh, we need to pull this into ourselves again. We can't really relax and make sure that we do have extra tea towels, and if people need us, they're going to have to come here, and so we're going to need to provide. I think there's an
Yes.
element of that. And then I think there's an element of just not understanding the sheer amount of excess. I was raised in a poor family on a farm with 6 kids. And, I know what it's like to live that way and how nice it can be. But my son doesn't know that. And my son's never experienced that level of simplicity and not having, computers and phones and multiples of everything in case something breaks down. And I think that's something we do a lot of. We have a second computer in case the first one breaks down, a backup phone, a backup this. We're doing a lot of
and
that.
that comes back to fear again, doesn't it? And maybe not fully exploring our motivations for things, which
And
I
a
think
lack
is
of
part of what you're
community.
well, as in you could get a backup from a collective source rather than having your own.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the joys of, there's many joys of my 3 years of traveling just with a suitcase, is you end up in little binds all the time, and you find out how good humans are in helping you out. You suddenly, oh God, this is broken down. I don't have this. I need to do this. And, being stuck somewhere and running into a neighbor or down to in a hostel saying, has anyone got a spare microphone? This doesn't start. Can someone help me? And suddenly you're bonding with your community.
Yes.
So
I
we
noticed
don't
that
do
one.
that so
Yeah,
much.
I stayed in a hostel in Belfast in Deaglestown, and what struck me, because I hadn't done a lot of that, I didn't go traveling as a kid or anything like that. I mean, I did, but I didn't not the sort of backpacking hostel experience. And I actually thought I really liked luxury hotels, and I still do. And when I was staying in a hostel, someone opens a bottle of wine and says, "Does anybody want a glass?" And do you want some of this food?
Yeah.
And people start, because of the culture of, or the expectations of that environment, people share, don't they? Because they're in the same room together, they're cooking, and they're naturally sharing with each other, which is not the sort of thing that
And
happens
telling
by
their
just
stories.
yes, that's right. And you get a whole different sort of value, don't you, in that sort of setup, because of the way it's designed and
Yeah.
what the expectations are. Whereas at the other end of the accommodation extreme, if you like, or spectrum, a 5-star is like, don't come anywhere near me. This is about me being in my own
Leave me
space and being
alone.
attended to in a luxury sort of way. And anyone trying to drink my wine here will be escorted from here by security.
Yeah, and look, I don't disrespect anybody who enjoys that, and I think
No,
everybody's got to
it's
choose
interesting,
their
isn't
own
it?
path.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm not saying that I'd never do it.
Mm.
I'm just qualifying that by saying at this point in time I can't even imagine it. I have no
Really?
desire to do it whatsoever.
Right.
It actually, even I found the more I traveled, I noticed that people who traveled as I was doing, very much winging it in the moment. I watched this girl walk into a hostel one day, and she was probably only about 30, and she had this grace and calm about her. And she'd been traveling for like 10 or 15 years.
Yes.
Nothing fazed her. Nothing
Yes.
bothered her. She walked up to talk to people. She was comfortable enough to say, I just need some time to myself. Now I'm going to go and sit over here by myself. So you get to interact a lot with the world, and you hear about the world. I can't
Yes.
imagine going to a foreign country and sitting in a 5-star hotel and not talking to them, as opposed to sitting in a hostel in Tavira, as you say, sharing food and wine, sitting around a big table, hearing about, oh no, this is the best place in Portugal to go. I just came from Uzbekistan. This mountain's amazing, and just going, wow, this is great. And because at that time, I'm in my 50s at that time, and most of these people are in their 20s, maybe 30s. So I thought they probably thought I was some old hag in the corner, but nonetheless, they were amazing. And it also, that's the other thing, is getting that interaction with a different age demographic
Yeah,
to
very helpful.
yours, and
Yes.
sitting on buses with amazing people. I almost never took planes either. So I was sitting on buses and trains and chatting with people, and
Yeah.
you just learn that humans are good. It's not
Oh
that
my
there's not
God, Mel,
bad
you
people.
took your life in your hands with all of these
I know,
crazy
I
things you've been doing.
nearly died. And people were just amazing. The vast
Yes.
majority of people are just amazing.
Yeah, so true. Bom dia todos, enjoying Mel's presence. Nesting is definitely a thing, and noticing there, I think once you get settled, you start drawing things in around you. Hostels are great for meeting people, says Pam. Mr. S, where were you last night, Mr. S? I think you said you weren't in need of grief or relief yesterday. Sounds like you got beef to me. I had planned to buy a place here, but I won't until Ima renews my residency permit. It's hard to discern tone sometimes from texts, but you don't sound entirely happy with Portugal there at the moment. And Jackie says, so this minimalism thing, it looks like it might extend to people as well. My nan taught me if you keep something long enough, you find a use for it. Still not found a use for a man in my life, so never held on to one for too long. Is that a Marie Kondo?
I hear you, Jackie.
Right, that could go. Right.
Minimalism.
Yes.
I just lost 80 kilos. It's a good weight loss program as well.
That's going to be easier with the next move. Yeah, the bus from the US never succeeds in making the trip to Europe. Yeah, rubbish. Your public transport's terrible over there. You haven't even got a bus that comes to Europe. I'm not complaining. Okay, fair enough. That's my plan. Fair enough, mistress. Sorry, as I said, it's difficult to discern tone from mere text. I've only got a couple of minutes. It's been good talking to you, and looking forward to you returning already. This might be too small to read, but do you like these lists? Do you see them now and think to yourself, well, I'm an expert at this. I will just affirm my credentials as a minimalist here with such a list.
I think the lists are awesome because I think everybody has to go where they're at in life and use what works for them. And I'm certainly a list human. So it's a good reminder to go, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'll give you one quick tip on it that I found the most useful before I left Australia was I saw somewhere, get all of the clothes. So we're in winter now, get all of your summer clothes and put them in a plastic bag or a box and seal it. Except for the things that you definitely used at the end of last summer. And as in any winter clothes that you haven't worn this winter, do the same with. And if at the end of summer you haven't opened that box, do not open the box, hand it to a friend and say, can you please take this to a charity shop for me? Because if you open the box to go through it, sure enough, you'll put it back in the cupboard again.
Yes, you will.
Realistically, and obviously you're going to keep out that one or two items that you may wear to a fancy do that you didn't happen to go to this summer. But apart from that, put every of your day wear away and get rid of it.
Like you said. And not only people and things, we're talking about decluttering mentally when it comes to this particular illustration here. Let it go, it says in the last section there. Guilt over getting rid of things, unfinished projects that stress you out, toxic social media accounts, worrying about what people think, the idea that decluttering has to be perfect. Very good. Get rid of those two. And then finally, Mel, there's this as well that came across. It's funny, isn't it? Once you start looking, I
haven't got my glasses on, so I'm peering at the screen. And sorry about my light. The sun disappeared.
Don't worry. You didn't give your glasses away, did you? You still got some. Right,
no, I just haven't got them. I've got my dogs locked in the car so they don't bark. So
I see. Okay, well they can come out in just a moment. Wirecutter says this is the great way to pack, but might it be quite a great way to live as well? 5 pairs of socks and underwear, 4 tops. That's as in the garments, not the band. 3 bottoms, 2 pairs of shoes, 1 hat or accessory. That is a very smart way to pack, isn't it? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Would you recommend that for living as well?
Just 2 things on that. When I traveled a lot, I had packing cubes, and that's pretty well how I packed. And at the beginning of winter, I'd go and buy myself. I always carried one pair of jeans, but beginning of winter, I'd buy one pair of jeans. At the end
Yeah.
of winter, I'd ditch it, and then I'd pick up an extra t-shirt and shorts or skirt. And yes, and what I used to do when I'd go into people's houses, and I still have it now, is I basically pull those packing cubes out of my suitcase and put it in their drawer, and then just pick them up and put them back in my suitcase because I was moving
Yes.
every week or so. And yeah, until this last move, I literally had everything still in the packing cubes.
Packing cubes. I don't even know what they are, but
Yeah,
if
they're really fantastic, and there's lots of brands. Some of them are dreadful, but some of them, they're just material little zip up bags, and I got color coded ones because I'm a bit like that. So all of my summer clothes are in bright green, and all of
very
my
good,
winter
makes
clothes are in
sense.
blue for cold and things like that. And you zip them up, and some of them, like the ones I have, you can actually compress them a little bit as well. So there's some that are this big, and little ones for underwear and that sort of stuff. And you can pack in one travel cube, a pair of jeans, a couple of t-shirts, a jacket like this, a couple of scarves, thick woolly socks, and will fit in one cube, and it compresses down.
Very good. That's pretty close to all the clothing I own. Fellow minimalist James there. Mel, what a distinguished entry to our community and show here. Thank you for being here this morning. That flew by. Will you come back? Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, I'll come back. I'll try and find a sunny. It might be sunnier by the time we come back next.
Yeah,
It was nice.
unless
It
you
had me
buggered
in
off
good
somewhere
light
else, though.
before.
You might just think to yourself, I'm going to get my packing cubes and go. But wherever you are,
Yeah, I'm
please
off.
come
I'm
back.
in Italy,
Okay.
wherever.
All right. Mr. S
Okay,
only
thanks
has
for
a
having
backpack.
me.
Easy peasy. Well, thank you for being here. Nice big round of applause for Mel, everybody. We will see Mel again next month on the 4th Tuesday of the month. Thank you very much from Mel-being to Wellbeing in just a moment. Cheers, Mel. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Oh, hold on a minute. No, let's do this properly. You got a flash of Marion there. Like I say, from Mel-being to Wellbeing. This is Wellbeing Tuesday, really, of course, isn't it? From different aspects about how to declutter your environment and your life and your mind. I think we were learning from Mel there. And we're going to continue with the Chinese medicine theme that we started with last month when we were massaging our ears. Do you remember that? When Marion had me taking my headphones off and massaging my ears. I think we're going around to the eyes now, and we're going to be talking about spring. Let's give her a nice big round of applause.